basically, this is the controversy. And as you probably, the media has kept this fairly mum, so it hasn't received a lot of mainstream attention. It has been all over alternative media, both internet and talk radio. But it's a powder keg that's about ready to go off, and you should know that. There's a referendum that has been organized statewide, mainly through Bible-believing Christians, to specifically deal with this issue. There has also been a movement to explain the ramifications of this, which are strongly anti-Christian and bigoted, and to encourage Christian parents to leave the public schools altogether. So, come January, it's very likely that this will reach a level that you're going to have to deal with, and I think we should talk about it before in December. The state superintendent is basically saying that, like the attorney that weighed in for the El Dorado County School, Vicki Barber, they're saying that there's no fundamental change in the law, that all it does is it simplifies and clarifies existing state law. That's their position. I just find that completely disingenuous. How can a basic Ed Code, Section 220 of the Ed Code, which changes the definition of gender from biological, to perceived gender, whether or not it's associated with that assigned to one at one's birth, how can that be considered as not a radical departure from existing Ed Code law? And also, there's a difference in the wording between AB 537, as one of the fact sheets points out, the state record fact sheet, and the wording for 777. 777 says that excuse me, let me see if I can make this here. We read this before. No teacher shall give instruction, nor shall a school district sponsor any activity that promotes a discriminatory bias against homosexuality, bisexuality, transsexuality. What that's saying that any term that is used in textbooks and instruction and curricula, and then 394 expands that to postings and basically anything that goes on in a school. You're just opening the door for lawsuits here. Anything that promotes a discriminatory bias. A homosexual, we know from their own publications and from their class actions before, will view the term mom and dad as discriminatory. Why? Because it isn't inclusive. So therefore, it promotes a discriminatory bias. Therefore, that wording may not be used. That is not a leap of faith. That's a very clear connection there. Similarly with marriage. Why does marriage have to be portrayed in the textbooks and curricula and the videos and so forth as only a man and a woman? And not to mention the insanity of perceived gender. What is that? Can you imagine the lawsuits coming out of that? Today, I think I'm feeling more feminine today. And then all those in authority, teachers, staff, and other students have to respect that. Now, so what you're doing is you're bringing the culture war to a full pitch in public schools. I don't know whether that was intended. It certainly was by the Sheila Kuhl and her sort. But this is what you're doing. You're taking this book, which says in the first chapter of Genesis, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. And then it says, and God made man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. And when it comes to marriage, he says, for this cause shall a man leave his father and his mother and be joined to his wife, and they two shall be one flesh. That's marriage. And what this legislation is doing is it's doing this, saying, we will define marriage. We will define gender. We are very God. And at the force of state law, using the state apparatus, which is becoming, I think, basically a church, with an ordained clergy, with an ordained Orthodox faith that has heavy penalties, with an established tithing system, it's becoming a church. What does this have to do with reading, writing, and arithmetic. This is to take morality and stand it on its head. This is to say what the prophet Isaiah said, it is to call evil good and good evil. And it is what is written in the Proverbs, that those who condemn the righteous and those that justify the wicked are both an abomination to God. That is what you're doing. You are, to Christian kids in the public school, you are telling them that good is now evil and evil is good. You are condemning the just and you are justifying the wicked. This is a moral decision that you're making here. So, what I'm saying to you is this. Jesus had very strong words for those that stumble in Matthew 18, those that believe in him. You know what he said? It's better for you that a millstone be hanged around your neck and cast into the sea, and that you stumble, one of these little ones that believes in me. You need to take that seriously, Superintendent. And you board members need to take that seriously, because that will be your fate before God at the end of your life. It's a very serious thing to bring perversion through this generation.
Would you do us a favor and wrap it up? We've got to get on to the rest of our agenda.
Okay, you want to hear this?
No, I've heard it.
Yeah, I know you've heard it, but you're going to hear it again. And you know what? At the end of your life, Darcy, you really will hear it, and it'll be too late. So what I'm saying to you is this. Okay. I have positioned in the paper that I submitted to you, okay, you to acknowledge that this board is taking a stand which is completely contrary to biblical Christian teaching. And Christian parents have the duty to raise up their children in the training and admonition of this book. Will you acknowledge that? I'd like to know that tonight. Will you acknowledge that there's a problem here? No comment.
We'll acknowledge that there's a law before us, so we're going to...
Will you acknowledge that there's a problem between this book and your book? Because now it is man, not God, deciding gender, deciding male-female, deciding all these moral issues. Will you acknowledge that problem? I'd like to know that. Do you acknowledge there's a problem?
Mr. Alderson, we're done.
Do you acknowledge this problem?
Would you...
I want an answer.
You're not going to get it. So we just
Why?
Because I'm not going to get into it.
Okay, I would like to ask the rest of the board. Will you answer that question?
That question can't be answered in a yes or a no, or 5 minutes or a half hour.
Okay. Roger Russo, can you answer that question?
I'm going to wait to see how this law plays out.
Richard Palmieri?
Yes.
Michelle?
I think it's going to go up to a vote.
And Superintendent? Okay. I want to let you know that our position is we will alarm Christian parents as to the ramifications of this law, and we will encourage them to leave the public schools.
That is your right.
And would you wish them well, as I asked in my paper to you? Would you wish those that leave well?
I wish every student that lives on the state of this community well.
Well, that's good,
And
because they will be leaving. Okay.
Any other comments, questions, concerns? All right, moving along with our
Wait,
agenda.
Is it okay if I say something? Can I just say
We've
something?
devoted a good 20 minutes to this, and when people come up
Just
for comments
few
and
minutes.
concern, I usually give about 3.
Okay, 3's fine.
No, that's what I'm saying. Cumulatively, you've had about 5 times as much as I normally tolerate.
I didn't know we had accumulation.
And where is that written down, Darcy?
It's our meeting, our prerogative.
So it's all subjective.
No, ask any one of the teachers.
Actually, it's in the brown, it
Okay.
says right in here.
And we have held our teachers to that, so I'm not treating you any different than I teach our certificates.
So you just decide arbitrarily we're done.
No, I don't. I've given you more leeway than I normally
That's
do,
arbitrary.
and I'm ready to move on in my neighborhood.
All right, you don't want to hear from us. You will hear from us.